I want to welcome you. Tuned into Eye on Africa. I'm Rochelle Ferguson-Biahi. These are the top stories. Zimbabwe's government faces growing criticism over a cholera epidemic that's killed at least 25 people, but authorities say they are committed to ending the outbreak. As Nigeria's army says it's repelled another assault by Boko Haram, France 24 brings you rare eyewitness accounts from victims and perpetrators of the jihadist group in the country's northeast. Plus, they went dressed as zombies, superheroes and ogres. Thousands of fans flocked to Africa's very first Comic-Con in Johannesburg this Friday. The three-day convention was sold out even before doors opened. But first, authorities in Zimbabwe are facing mounting pressure over a cholera epidemic which has claimed at least 25 lives. A crowdfunding initiative launched by the country's finance minister has sparked criticism amid claims of government misspending. Well, authorities have said it's no time for a blame game. Zimbabwe's latest cholera epidemic has raised fears of a repeat of 2008 when the infection killed over 4,000 people.
Unattended landfills, rubbish piling up in the streets and burst sewage pipes in a city of more than 2 million people. This has severely contaminated the water in the Zimbabwean capital, Harare. Cholera is a waterborne disease which has so far caused multiple fatalities.
At the moment, I think we need assistance from every organization. That includes the government, the private organizations.
The World Health Organization has said that first-line antibiotics were already struggling to treat the illness and that the alternative drugs weren't even available. Authorities have banned public gatherings and are closely supervising treatment centers.
Cholera is a huge problem in our area because our sewage pipes need to be replaced. They are bursting all the time. Our water is not clean.
Residents have been forced to rely on open wells and boreholes, some of which tests confirmed were contaminated with bacteria. President Emerson Mnangagwa has pledged to tackle the current outbreak.
In other news on the continent, Nigeria's army says it's repelled another assault by the militant group Boko Haram, this time on an army base in the country's northeast. Military officials say insurgents fired heavy artillery at the base in Damasak in Borno State. That was on Wednesday night. The army says the attack was thwarted with the help of aerial support. Well, as Nigeria continues its offensive against Boko Haram extremists, our reporters Catherine Norris-Trent and Jonathan Walt travelled to the northeast of the country. In a special 26-minute documentary, they bring us rare eyewitness accounts from not just the jihadist group victims, but also its perpetrators.
Falmata has a remarkable story. She was seized by Boko Haram in 2014 and separated from her 2 children. In captivity, the jihadists ordered her to put on an explosive belt to become a suicide bomber.
They told us, come, we're going to put bombs on you. It won't hurt you, just kill the other people. They placed the bombs on 2 other women and they wanted to put one on me too. They called me over. They told me to go and braid my hair and decorate my hands with henna. They wanted us to look presentable. And when I saw that, I said I needed the toilet. There was a place just behind the house. I went out there and just ran into the forest. I don't know if the other women are alive or not. I just don't know.
After fleeing through the night, Falmata handed herself in to the CJTF. She was detained, screened for security. Jida was won over by her strength of character.
With time, she became the leader of the detainees when they were allowed out. She was in charge because she was clever. I went there to work. That's where we met, and I fell for her.
Now, Falmata works with her husband, identifying Boko Haram members.
She helps us. We use her when new people come here. She helps us with intelligence. She points them out, identifying those that were working with Boko Haram. She recognizes those who are with them.
Once they're here arrested in front of us, they have no power over me.
Stories of resistance and strength, Northeast Nigeria is full of them.
Well, to our viewers who do want to see the full documentary, you can always go to our website, france24.com, for the full 26-minute documentary. Now, running for president in Benin has become a very expensive business indeed. Candidates for the next presidential polls will have to fork out the equivalent of €380,000 as a deposit. Well, the costly sum is down to a new electoral code. Critics say that code makes politics even more inaccessible for the country's youth. Our correspondent on the ground sent us this report.
Activists for the party of young leader Boris Sinzagan are outraged. They've called an emergency meeting in Passagon, in central Benin. Top of the agenda, how small political parties are being snuffed out. Supporters of the ruling party have effectively installed a financial barrier that will keep newcomers out of parliament.
The new electoral code raised the bar to 249 million francs. It's going to make it difficult for young people just starting out in politics in Benin to even aspire to becoming a member of parliament.
Instead of a democracy of ideas, we're allowing money to buy legitimacy.
The former student leader, Boris Ake, became a party leader. Sensing a change in the political climate, the 26-year-old made sure he went onto the pitch before the reforms were voted through by the National Assembly.
Politicians are starting to panic. They've noticed that the youth is getting organized. Now, they've simply got to try and prevent these young people with their laws from feeding that ambition.
Had he left it just a few more weeks, he wouldn't have been able to establish his party. According to the new law, a party has to have at least 11,000 members. These young activists sounded the alarm and was helped by his supporters.
It will never be a question of bowing to the will of the current political class.
This is why Constantine Amusu, who runs a youth association, decided to go on tour to highlight youth exclusion from political debate. He also hopes to make a small financial contribution to support young candidates for elections in 2019.
If we have 1 million young people willing to put up 1,000 francs each, that's 1 billion francs that we're going to have. These are some of the approaches we're working on, and they're not the only ones.
Constantine Amusu will spend 80 days on his motorcycle tour, visiting even the most remote villages to take the pulse of Benin's youth.
And finally, dressed as zombies, superheroes and even ogres, thousands of fans flocked to Africa's first Comic-Con in Johannesburg this Friday. The three-day convention showcases the very best in the industries of comic books, animation and gaming. The event was sold out even before the gates opened. France 24's Simon Harding has this report.
It's the first ever Comic-Con to be hosted on the African continent. Thousands of comic books and science fiction fans attended the event in Johannesburg, which is scheduled to last 3 days. Costumes, games, presentations, a superhero package for everyone.
I really like the diversity of content that I've seen, a lot of representation for gaming and comic books, some animes, and lots of different types of fan-made items offered, and that always shows like sort of the passion of a community.
Organisers have been pushing for Comic-Con to visit Africa for years. One of the unique aspects of this particular event has been to blend local heroes Kwezi and Captain South Africa with your usual blockbusters like Batman.
Well, it's the first time event on the African continent. As you can imagine, it's been overwhelming. We've had amazing interest. To the fact that I think this is one of the first launch shows of Reed Pop globally of Comic-Con that we actually sold out before the gates opened. So we are absolutely overwhelmed. In fact, we would love to have got more people in, but we just can't from a safety and security perspective.
Since its inception in 1970, Comic-Con has become a globally recognised event, gathering hundreds of thousands of fans each time. With visitors from all over the continent, this is just the beginning of Comic-Con's adventure in Africa.
Well, there you have it. You're up to date with Eye on Africa. We're back in about 45 minutes' time. Up next, though, Delano D'Souza is here with more international headlines. Stay tuned.